Picture this. You're talking about something you really care about. Maybe your favorite K-pop group is coming to Hong Kong, and your friend is next to you, nodding, while staring at their phone. Your friend is the self-centered type. They only listen when it's something important to them. Now imagine your friend is the world, and your K-pop group is climate change? I know, it's a bit disappointing, but think about it. How often do we nod along, pretending to care, when our minds just can't help but drift elsewhere? How often does the phrase climate change go through one ear and out the other, like a lecture from your dad that feels boring and irritating? I know climate change is kind of a cliché topic. It's been talked about for so long that it just doesn't have the same impact on people anymore. Some of you in the room might even find it annoying I'm talking about climate change. Ugh, not this again. So boring. I want you to think about this for a minute. Do you actually understand how bad climate change is for us? Do you know how it affects the planet, ecosystems, and even humans? Do you think about it often, or perhaps it just fades into the background? Some of us say we care. I care. But what does it mean to care? If you don't take action to show you care, do you really care about it? There is a part in our brain called the medial prefrontal cortex, also known as the MPFC, and it's responsible for our emotions and behavior. So let's say I put you under an MRI and I presented you with a situation affecting yourself. Your MPFC would light up with activity. Let's say this situation affected your family or close friends. It would still light up, a little less though. But if this situation involved a random stranger, it would not light up at all. Humans are designed to be self-centered for survival. We only see problems that we feel responsible for when it affects ourselves personally or our loved ones. We've all heard the facts. Icebergs are melting, more extreme weather conditions, it's getting hotter. But when we hear these facts, most of us don't really think much of it. Like, yeah, it's getting hotter, but what's it got to do with me? Just turn on the aircon. And this mindset isn't really our fault. Climate change has been going on for years. It's something in the back of your head that you don't really imagine getting fixed. It doesn't have a deadline to fixing it, thanks to our policies, or a date to when the world is suddenly going to be 100 degrees. So we don't feel a burning urge to do something right now because we don't see it as a threat. Daniel Gilbert, a Harvard psychologist, came up with a pain theory to explain why. The pain theory is an acronym. It's a criteria that determines whether or not humans will take action on certain things. The P stands for personal. It needs to be personal and relatable to you in order for you to care and then act. However, most of us don't know enough about climate change to see how it affects ourselves. The A stands for abrupt. We tend to notice things that happen abruptly and suddenly, but climate change always seems to be something happening in the future. It's a gradual, growing problem, so we don't tend to notice it. The I stands for immoral. The cause of the threat needs to seem morally wrong. However, what we see in the media doesn't evoke strong emotions like fear or anger, so we don't think burning fossil fuels is bad or going to affect ourselves. The N stands for happening now. It needs to be happening now, but the pain is unavoidable. However, there isn't just one day where climate change occurs. It's gradual changes on a long-term scale. You can see the problem here. Climate change doesn't meet this criteria to the extent where we actually take action. We always hear, our ecosystems will fall apart, but it just seems too far away in the future to care about now. Climate change is just too uncertain. An article by the Medium says, in fact, we don't apply this concept of uncertainty to other aspects of our lives. For example, even with a 1% chance of a terrorist attack, we've received more precautions for that than we've ever even seen with climate change, because it just doesn't give off the same red flags. That's why it's hard for us to believe or care about climate change and why we should make changes in our lives. On the other hand, even if the pain criteria was met, it doesn't necessarily mean action from the public would be immediate. An article by LSE believes that the bystander effect could explain why humans are so hesitant to act on climate change. The bystander effect started with the murder of Kitty Genovese at 3 a.m. outside her apartment. 37 people witnessed it, but none of them called the police. Why? It's the idea of, oh, someone else will do it. When you're in a group, the responsibility is divided, and the more people in a group, the less responsibility you have. When you have less responsibility, the less likely you are to be motivated to act. That's why everyone hates group projects. It's normalized to ignore and accept some things that aren't right because it's more simple. Simple for your emotions if you choose to fight against it. An article by the Medium says that people are even less likely to take action if it is not prioritized by peers. Let's say you're in a friend group that doesn't care about climate change at all. You have two options. One, arguing that climate change is a real issue and possibly getting kicked out of the group, or two, agreeing to protect yourself. You can guess what most people go with. Additionally, we tend to play a blame game with climate change. Let's use an example. The generations alive today might not feel responsible for climate change. Like we didn't decide to use fossil fuels back in the Industrial Revolution, but it's been generations and generations of turning a blind eye. We do this blame game to shift the pressure of responsibility off ourselves. A video by Vox on climate change says that when we feel scared or guilty, we withdraw ourselves from the problem and think of something nicer. We are a self-centered species after all, so pinpointing it on someone else acts as a defensive mechanism to admitting our personal flaws. Subconsciously, this reinforces the bystander effect. Okay, so we've talked about psychological barriers to acting on climate change, but I'd like to draw your attention to how exactly climate change affects you. We all know that the Earth's global temperature has increased drastically, and we all know that the biggest cause is fossil fuel production. However, the effects are being overlooked and dismissed by most people. I believe what most of us fail to understand is how exactly climate change affects your everyday life. Higher temperatures, that means more aircon turned on and higher electricity bills. Heat exhaustion and skin cancer will be a lot more frequent. The seasons are messed up. Summer will be unbearably hot, especially in Hong Kong. Christmas will feel like how it's supposed to be because you're sweating. And will take a longer amount of days until it's actually cold enough to wear that nice pair of jeans you bought. So your winter clothes won't be used as much. With hotter temperatures, the demand for summer clothes will go up, meaning the price will go up too. These are things we're experiencing right now. What we see in the supermarkets are really based on what is available on our planet, but ecosystems are collapsing. Whether there is too little or too much of a certain species, food prices will go up, while the quality and supply go down. We are experiencing more extreme weather conditions by the minute. Communities will need to evacuate their homes because it won't be livable anymore. That may mean a bunch of people moving to your country where there isn't enough space, jobs, or resources for them. Crops will suffer, and malnutrition and nutrition deficits will be common. There will be more money spent on repairs that could be coming out of your pocket through higher taxes. Guess what? Limited resources may lead to war and frequent fights between countries. Finally, burning fossil fuels leads to more air pollution. A headache might not seem too bad, but wait till you get increased chances of lung disease and cancer, heart disease, asthma, diabetes, more premature births, decreased sperm quality, blood clots, damage to the brain meaning lower IQ. Yeah, it's not looking great for you. So, you might be thinking, well, we're doomed. Look at this Instagram reel I found. Many people try to scare you with facts and show how bad it's going to be in, say, 2050. They're trying to get a reaction from you, but from what we learned today, that hasn't really worked. Change starts small. One person alone cannot stop climate change by themselves. We need every single person on this planet to contribute because each of our individual small actions do make a difference, and they do add up. There are a bunch of ways you can help, like turning off the tap when you're not using it, or choosing to take buses and trains rather than taxis and cars. I won't have time to list them all out, but I can tell you that there's an even easier way to take that first step. Something about working with a group of people makes you do all sorts of things you wouldn't usually do on your own. There's a bit of peer pressure, but we can use this to our advantage with climate change. Due to the way society is built, you are more likely to work towards a goal when others close to you are aiming for that same goal. You know friend streaks on Duolingo. The fact that you have a streak with your friend motivates you not to break it. The same applies in a group project. You want to do your bit, otherwise everyone else will get mad at you for not doing anything. So, try a collective group action working towards protecting our planet. You could do this with your family, friends, or a close community you have. Maybe a day in the week where you walk or cycle. Maybe whenever your clothes don't fit you anymore, you upcycle them. You could turn your jeans into a tote bag or pencil case. A food challenge where you try different types of protein other than meat. Have fun with your loved ones while protecting our planet. Climate action doesn't have to be a chore. At the end of the day, of course, industrial systems are the biggest contributing factor to climate change. Of course, if they stopped using fossil fuels and replaced it with renewable energy, that would be the biggest help in fixing climate change. But I don't want you to underestimate the difference you can make. It's true, a lot of power is in the government, but if we all change our lifestyles just a little bit, we can help create drastic social changes to get their attention. Maybe they'll think, it seems the public cares a lot about the environment. Then climate action could be a priority for leaders when they're trying to get your vote. You don't have to start a protest, but stand for policies supporting climate action goals. My point of this TED Talk is not to force you to care, but to understand why some of us don't, and how climate change actually affects our everyday lives. I want to inspire a mindset shift in a way that motivates you to take action and care, no matter how small or big that may be. We all have responsibility on this planet. All individual actions do make a difference. And since we are a species that tend to follow each other, your actions may influence others too. In the words of Albert Einstein, we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. Thank you.